Trigger warning. Ghosts, ghouls, and gruesome stuff ahead. It's weird. It's dark. It's your kind of vibe. Welcome to Haunted and Homicidal, the podcast where true crime meets the paranormal. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Courtney. Every week we uncover the terrifying, the twisted, and the totally unexplainable. Lock your doors and grab your sage.
Because things are about to get haunted and homicidal. Hey guys.
What's up?
What's up, bitches?
What's up, bitches?
Yeah, see, I like that much better than noodles. So, how have y'all been? I know it's been like a whole 4 days since you've heard our illustrious voices. But we're back.
If y'all call it that, okay?
We're back. We had a good time this weekend at the Gothic Market thingy.
Yeah.
We were going to go to the quarter, but it rained, so we didn't. But we'll do that for another time because I want to hit up like the voodoo shops and stuff. So, other than that,
another day, another dollar.
pretty fucking much is bullshit. Many bullshit.
Mini bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a house full of people today. Chicken and pizza and all that good stuff. So, yeah. But I guess we will go ahead and just jump into it today. Because mine's kind of long. It's crazy. So we are going to talk about Albert DeSalvo. So, whoops.
don't
My Red Bull said, ding. Look.
Don't knock that over.
Yeah. Well, it said, ding. It gives you wings. Not sponsored, by the way. It'd be great, though, because, yeah. But I grabbed the wrong one. I meant to grab the white peach, but they're very similar in color, but I grabbed wild berry.
I mean, wild berry's good, too.
It's good, too, but I really like the white peach. It's my favorite. Okay. All right. In the early 1960s, a serial killer was on the loose in the Boston area. A series of gruesome murders took place. Nearly a dozen women were sexually assaulted, raped, murdered, and strangled with a piece of their own clothing tied around their neck in a bow. The reporters dubbed the killer the Boston Strangler. So you guys have probably heard about the Boston Strangler.
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of like, kind of the theory behind it because it's still unsolved.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
What?
It is unsolved.
What?
We will figure out, you guys will find out why later in the story, but it is technically still an unsolved situation, okay? So, Albert DeSalvo was born September 3rd, 1931, and I didn't look up what that is.
Ooh, you forgot the Zodiac.
I did.
And usually I'm the one that forgets the Zodiac.
Yeah, uh-oh. Why am I opening this again? No, close. I don't need you.
I don't need you.
Virgo, okay.
Bitch, no. No. Don't be a Virgo. Hell no.
Yeah, it's only, 3 days away from your birthday.
God damn it.
Okay, so Albert DeSalvo was born September 3rd of 1931, which makes him a Virgo, like Courtney.
Ugh.
He was known at that time as the Green Man or the Measuring Man. And again, we'll find out kind of later why he's called that.
The Measuring Man?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Okay.
Because when I first started doing the research, I was like, what? And then like when I started remembering the story, I was like, oh yeah, that's why.
Oh.
So he was born in Chelsea, Massachusetts. He was the third of 6 children.
We've been doing a lot of Massachusetts.
We have, and that's crazy. Like, there's like a lot of murderers in that area, so maybe I don't want to live there.
I mean, it's good for October.
It is. It really is. It's good for the podcast.
But damn.
Yeah, it's and that's where I was born.
I feel like we've had
been
every week so far in October.
And I want to say maybe my next one is Massachusetts also. But I don't remember.
Well, mine.
Oh, no, it is.
Mine is not Massachusetts.
Mine is. My next one is also. Wow, y'all got a lot of murderers up in Massachusetts. Okay.
And you want to go there.
I was born there. So, just saying. Putting that out there. Okay.
Wait, how old were you when you moved, though?
Like 2 months. Like, I was pretty much raised here from the time I was, infant. So, DeSalvo's father was a violent alcoholic who abused his wife and children.
Bitch.
And one of the many times he attacked his wife in front of his children, at one point he knocked all of her teeth out and bent her fingers back one by one until they broke in front of all 6 children.
Oh, God. Oh.
Yeah, so he was excessively violent.
Oh.
DeSalvo's father would also bring home prostitutes and engage in sexual acts with them in front of family members, including the children.
How did she not poison his ass or
Yeah.
kill? What the fuck?
Like, this should have gone like a different route.
Yes.
Like, we should be talking about her and the murder of the father, but no, because unfortunately some women just, they're beaten down and broken so bad that they don't think that they're, you know, with men like that, they knock it into the females' heads of, you're unlovable, you're unworthy, no one's ever going to want you. And so they start believing that when that is something that you're told day in, day out for years. And a lot of that's the reason why they don't leave these situations. So for anybody listening, if you have a husband or wife who is abusive, verbally or otherwise, get the fuck out. Please. Do not stay for the children.
Take the children with you at least, please.
Yeah, take the children, because we've seen some of the situation where the kids are left. Take the children. Get the fuck out.
Yes.
Yes, you may love them, but you have to understand they don't love you.
No.
And they'll tell you they do. And sometimes they might show you that they do. But if they can't consistently bring that to the table, or they don't help you around the house, and then they constantly bitch about it, fuck them. Get the fuck out. Somebody in your circle will help you leave.
Yes.
Get the fuck out.
Yes.
Rant over. So.
Period.
Yeah. Just get the fuck out, because, like, this is what happens. Like, if they don't end up killing you, they fuck your children up, and you think you're protecting them and doing what you're doing. You're not. All you're doing is letting those children see how you're treated, and then they think it's okay to treat other people that way. And it's not. And you've got to get out of that situation, because they could turn into serial rapists and murderers, you know? Because what have we learned so far on this podcast? People who have fathers who are extremely abusive to the children and or the other parent, that's why they're on this podcast.
Yes.
So if anybody out there is suffering with domestic violence or whatever, reach out to somebody, please.
Please.
So, anyway, DeSalvo's father also encouraged him to commit petty crimes while he was young, like young. Yeah. DeSalvo claims that his father smashed him once across the back with a pipe.
What?
And he said this was like a normal occurrence, and the only reason he got him that time was that he just wasn't quick enough to not get hit.
What?
So, this man was fucking...
Please tell me please tell me he's at least one of his victims.
No.
Damn it.
Yeah, he is not. But soon we're gonna kind of... This man is fucking, like, wild. Okay. Albert began torturing animals as a child, which they tend to do. In early adolescence, at the age of 6. He engaged in acts of petty theft and shoplifting, frequently crossing paths with the law at the age of fucking 6. Encouraged by his dad. Okay. So in 1943, DeSalvo, who was only 12 at the time, was arrested for battery and robbery.
At 12?
Yes. And was subsequently sent to Lyman School for Boys, which is like a boarding school, basically. Okay. Behavior school. In October of 1944, DeSalvo was paroled and started working as a delivery boy. In August of 1946, when he was about 15 years old, he was returned to the Lyman School for Boys after being convicted of auto theft. So he's just like...
He's just going up.
Gradually getting worse, right?
Oh.
After completing his sentence, DeSalvo joined the U.S. Army, where he served for 8 years and was honorably discharged after his first tour of duty. He became the middleweight boxing champion among the troops in Europe.
Okay.
He re-enlisted, then was tried for court-martial. It doesn't say, like, what he was tried for.
Okay.
And then was again honorably discharged. He served as a military police sergeant with the 2nd Squadron, 14th Armored Cavalry Regiment when he was in the military. While stationed in Germany, he met a German woman named Irmgard Beck. They married and returned to America in 1953 and remained married until his death in 1973. They remained married
For 20 years.
While he was committing the crimes, had been convicted of the crimes, and went to jail for his crimes.
Did she know about his crimes, though?
Eventually. I don't think, like, while it was happening, she knew. But obviously, when he was arrested. Now, see, like, later on, there are some things that are, like, really confusing to me when I was doing the research. So we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
So they had 2 biological children, Judy and Michael. And some of the sources mentioned that Judy may have had some kind of, like, physical disabilities. Like, she was a special needs child.
Oh, okay. But they didn't say, like, what?
It didn't say what. It said he was seen as a modest father and husband, which is what we always hear. Of course. Working modest jobs and being family-oriented. They lived in relative financial modesty, so they had money. They weren't struggling, but they weren't, like, flashy either.
Yeah.
You know, they were just living modestly. Irmgard was aware that DeSalvo had a high libido and tried to avoid intercourse for fear of having another baby with the handicap. So she was like, she was super scared.
Yeah.
So Judy was the firstborn.
Yeah.
Well, despite that, she ended up pregnant with Michael. Michael was perfectly fine. Okay. Normal baby. But after that, they didn't have any more children.
Okay.
And it does say that his wife was completely shocked by his confessions once he finally confessed to everything that he had done.
She didn't know
she didn't know when he was doing it. Like, she was oblivious to it, but, like, she still remained married to him after he confessed and was sentenced and all of that. I would not have, but that's just me. At the time of the Boston Strangler murders, DeSalvo lived at 11 Florence Street Park in Malden, across the street from the junction of Florence and Clement Streets, which I guess is, like, in that area where this was happening. By age 29, DeSalvo had a history of breaking and entering. He had also begun a bizarre series of peeping Tom escapades where he would knock on ladies' doors, pretend he was a model scout, and proceed to measure up the flattered women if he was lucky enough to get in. This is where the quote-unquote measuring man came in. So he would stalk out these women, notice that they were alone, they lived alone, the roommates weren't home. He would knock on the door, say, "Hey, I'm a model scout, let me get your measurements and see if I can get you a gig." They would be like, "Oh my God, yeah, how cool." And they would be like, "Come on in."
But that's just a little weird to have somebody.
But back in those days, I think that's pretty much how that happened. Like, like door-to-door salesmen, they just kind of did that. That was normal then, right? That was normal. Oh. You know, but they would be like, "Come on in," and he would have, like, a measuring tape and he would measure them. Sometimes he would push it further. Sometimes that was it and he would leave and maybe return weeks later, months later, and do what he did. So that's where the measuring man kind of came in. Green man, I'm not super sure. I think it's because maybe, like, in one of the descriptions later it said that he was wearing, like, green colored shades, like sunglasses. But it really doesn't explain, like, the green man part well at all. So he spent roughly 18 months in jail for sexually oriented crimes, and when he was not incarcerated, DeSalvo worked as a handyman and factory worker. Now, here's where I said I had a little bit of confusion, okay? So by the age of 29, which would have been, around the time he was married, I would think, because he was born in 31, and he got married in 53. So he was,
1931 minus.
He was 22 when he got married. He got married in 53.
Yeah, 22.
So he was 22 when he got married. So at 29, he had all these breaking and enterings, the peeping Tom, and he got locked up for 18 months in jail. What did the wife think was happening? He would have been locked up for 18 months.
He could have been like, "Honey, I have to go, I'm going to be gone for 18
traveling
months for work."
Yeah, but I mean, it never explains that. But that was, like, one of my questions. Like, oh, she was so shocked. She never knew. How did you not know when your husband was locked up for 18 months?
Yeah, unless they, like, told her, he had them tell her, something like, the
traffic ticket. Something.
Or, like, have them say, "Hey, don't tell my wife because I don't want her stressing with the kids." Like, he could have been like, "Oh, don't like stress her. Just say that."
But, like,
I'm like,
would she not have questioned where the fuck he was for 18 months? He was not, like, a traveling salesman or anything. He was a factory worker.
I don't know.
So
they said he has to go work at a different factory, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm so confused because it doesn't explain that.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, she was so shocked. Was she though?
Was she?
Because if my husband didn't come home, who was normally home every day, for even a day, I'm questioning. I'm questioning something. Where the fuck were you?
For the day he doesn't call you at
that ain't
all.
never gonna happen. Well, he'd be dead.
I know. I'm just saying, the day he doesn't call you and the day he doesn't come home.
I know something's wrong.
Concerned.
I know something's wrong. For 18 months?
Especially when he calls you 5 times a day.
500 times.
500 times a day.
Yeah. But for 18 months?
Yeah.
That I just don't get that. So, between June 14th of 1962 and January 4th of 1964, so almost 2 years, 13 single women between the ages of 19 and 85.
What?
He had a range.
That's a big age gap.
Yeah. Were murdered in the Boston area. Their deaths were eventually tied to a serial killer named again the Boston Strangler. Most of the victims were sexually assaulted in their apartments before being strangled with articles of clothing, which usually were their clothes. The oldest victim, unfortunately, died of a heart attack. So, like, when she was attacked, her heart gave out.
I mean, the oldest is like 85.
Yeah. So, her heart gave out. So, they're kind of ruling that as the COD, but it was because she was being attacked.
Yeah.
Her heart, like, yeah.
Yeah, her heart was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. 2 others were stabbed to death, one of whom was badly beaten. Without signs of forced entry into their dwellings, the victims were assumed to have either known the killer or voluntarily allowed him into their homes. The final victim of the murders was 19-year-old Mary Sullivan, who was raped and strangled in her Boston apartment on January 4th, 1964. 3 ligatures were wrapped around her neck and a broom handle was lodged in her vagina.
What the fuck?
A card reading Happy New Year was left by the killer, leaning against her left foot.
What the
And we're
fuck?
gonna talk about this more in depth later. I've got like a more in depth
what the fuck?
more in depth look at the victims after this. It's just kind of like touching on like the main horrible points. In late 1964, in addition to the Strangler murders, the Boston Police Department were trying to solve a series of rapes committed by a man who was dubbed the Green Man or the Measuring Man. So again, DeSalvo. So his victims: Anna Elza Slezers, she was 55. She was discovered June 14th, 1962 at her home at 77 Gainsborough Street in Boston. Anna was a Latvian immigrant seamstress and devout churchgoer and was his first victim. She lived alone in a modest brick house apartment. Her son Juris maybe, was meant to come by to pick her up for a memorial service, so someone that they know had passed, and she was just waiting on her son, which I'm thinking is the reason she opened the door when the knock came.
Yeah.
So when he discovered her body in the bathroom with the cord around her neck tied in a bow, Uris assumed that she had committed suicide. Homicide detectives James Mellon and John Driscoll found Slezers in an obscene scene. She was nude and stripped of dignity. She had been sexually assaulted. The apartment looked as though it had been ransacked, with Slezer's purse and contents strewn on the floor. Despite what appeared to have been a robbery, a gold watch and pieces of jewelry were left behind. The police settled on the hypothesis that it was a botched burglary. So they're assuming that he broke in, she came home, and then he attacked her and then just left with nothing, which we find out is not the case.
Oh, gosh.
Mary Mullen, this is the one that was 85. She was discovered on June 28th of 1962 at her home at 1435 Commonwealth Avenue in Boston. The autopsy reported that Mary died of a heart attack, though DeSalvo confessed to killing her by putting his arm around her neck and tightening it. Nina Neoma Nichols was 68. She was discovered June 30th of 1962 at her home at 1940 Commonwealth Avenue. So the same street as Mary. Mm-hmm. Just like further down.
Yeah.
This appeared to also be a burglary despite valuable silver that appeared untouched. The ransacking didn't seem to make sense to the detectives. Nichols was also found in a state of undress, her legs wide open and her stocking tops tied in a bow around her neck. The next one was Helen Elizabeth Blake. She was 65. She was discovered June 30th of 1962 at her home at 73 Newhall Street in Lynn, Massachusetts. She was a divorcee, and her murder was more gruesome. She suffered laceration to her genitals. Again, the bow trade mark was evident, this time made from tying her bra around her neck into a bow. Like the previous crimes, the scene appeared to be a burglary.
Did he say why he did bows? Did they ever?
It never says anything about the bows, ever. It does kind of say, like, why he chose the people he chose.
Yeah. But not why he
tied everything in a bow. No. Mm-mm. So after this brutal slaying, it was clear that Boston had a serial killer in its midst. I mean, you would think, right? Same MO. Police Commissioner Edmund McNamara canceled all police leave due to the severity of the situation. And a warning went out via the media to Boston's female population. Women were advised to lock their doors and be cautious of strangers, which should be a no-brainer to begin with, but especially during this. So, police profiling had already decided that in all probability they were looking for a psychopath, whose hatred of older women may actually be linked to his own relationship with his mother.
But he had his dad was the one that was the bitch, and his mom was getting beat up.
But
what happened?
Normally, with men who have fathers like that, who hate women, who beat on women, the boys grow up that way also. Okay. That's why I said, if you're in a relationship and you have children, and these children are watching your spouse abuse you, they think it's okay, and that's how they're going to start treating people. It's got nothing to do with maybe the mom babying them or loving them as much as they could. That's not what they're going to remember. They're going to remember the mom just allowing the dad to do whatever, say whatever, be whatever. And that's just how a normal relationship is supposed to go. So it makes sense.
Okay.
Ida Erga, she was 75. She was discovered August 19th of 1962 at 7 Grove Street in Boston. She was strangled, and she was on her back on the floor wearing a brown nightgown, which was ripped and exposed her body. Her legs were apart and resting on 2 chairs, and a cushion had been placed under her buttocks. What? There was no sign of forced entry at this one either. The next one was Jane Sullivan. She was 67. She was discovered August 21st of 1962 at her home at 435 Columbia Road in Boston. She was a nurse. She had been murdered a week before her body was found, and she was found dead in her bathroom. She had been strangled by her own nylons, which are pantyhose. Sophia L. Clark, she was 21.
Okay, so now we're at the young ones.
Yeah. She was discovered December 5th of 1962 at her home at 315 Huntington Ave in Boston. She was a black student who was very mindful of her safety and rarely dated. Her body was found a few blocks away from where his first victim, Slessor, was, so they lived in like the same general area. Clark was found nude and had been sexually assaulted. She had been strangled by her own stockings, and the authorities discovered semen for the first time.
Oh.
It hadn't been left in any other scene.
Okay.
Although Clark did not fit the same profile as the other victims because she was, number one, younger, number two, black. Police were sure it was the work of the same killer, mainly because of the ligatures and how it was tied. Furthermore, this time, they had a lead regarding the killer's possible identification. A female neighbor informed police that a man had knocked on her door, insisting that he had been sent to paint her apartment. He finally left after she told him that her husband was sleeping in the next room. So she thinks that he was like just knocking on doors, and whoever opened the door was the lucky target.
Yeah, who didn't have anyone at home.
Exactly. Patricia Jane Bissett, she was 23. She was discovered December 31st of 1962 at her home at 515 Park Drive in Boston. This one's rough because she was pregnant.
No!
And she was found dead in her apartment near the area of where Slessors and Clark were found. So again, he stayed in like a really tight vicinity. Her body lay in her bed covered by sheets, and she had been sexually assaulted and strangled with her own stockings. This prompted, finally, the Boston police to interview and check out every sex offender in the area, but nothing turned up. So they went through all of them, and, like, they couldn't figure it out. That was it.
Because he wouldn't have been a registered sex offender yet, right?
No, he wouldn't have been. So the next one, we don't really have a whole lot of information about her. Pretty much the same MO. Her name was Mary Ann Brown. She was 69, and she was discovered March 6th of 1963 at her home at 319 Park Street in Lawrence. Beverly Florence Sammons was 23, discovered May 8th of 1963 at her home at 4 University Road in Cambridge. She was a college graduate. She had missed choir practice on the day of her murder. She was found with her hands behind her back with one of her scarves. A nylon stocking and 2 handkerchiefs were tied around her neck. A piece of cloth over her mouth had a second cloth which had been stuffed into her mouth. 4 stab wounds to her neck had most likely killed her rather than the strangulation. So
what the fuck?
Yeah. There were 22 additional stab wounds on Samon's body, 18 in the shape of a bullseye on her right breast. She had been raped, but there was no evidence of semen. It was thought that because of her strong throat muscles due to singing, the killer had to take to stabbing her instead of strangulation because, her throat muscles were too strong.
But he stabbed her so fucking much.
Anger. Because normally he's just used to strangling them, and when he couldn't do that, she wouldn't die. He got angry.
Oh, God.
The police, who were now desperate after the 10th victim, even sought the help of a clairvoyant. He described the killer, this is fucking wild, as a mental patient who had absconded from Boston State Hospital on the days the killings took place. However, this was discounted. So this clairvoyant was saying, it's a mental patient, they're escaping every time there's a murder and going back so nobody knows.
But he wasn't a mental patient.
Right.
The fuck?
So this dude, was just bullshit. But that's what his thought process was. He was like, oh, it's a mental patient escaping from the hospital, going on a killing spree, and then going right back to the hospital with no detection.
Yes, because that totally makes sense.
Right. So I was like, what? The next one,
fake.
Yeah. The next one was Marie Eveline, or she went by Evelyn Corbin. She was 57. She was discovered September 8th, 1963 at her home at 224 Lafayette Street in Salem. She was found nude and on her bed face up. Her underwear had been stuffed in her mouth. And again, there were traces of semen, both on lipstick stains and in her mouth. The apartment had been ransacked in similar fashions as the others. The next one was Joanne Marie Graff. She was 23. She was discovered November 25th of 1963 at her home at 54 Essex Street in Lawrence. She was an industrial designer. She was raped and killed in her apartment. Several descriptions of her attacker matched those of the man who had asked to paint Clark's neighbor's flat. The description detailed a man wearing dark green shades, a dark shirt, and a jacket. So I'm thinking that's where the green man came from, but it doesn't ever specify.
Yeah.
All right, so his final victim was Mary Ann Sullivan, and she was 19. She was discovered January 4th of 1964 at her home at 44A Charles Street in Boston. This was one of the most gruesome murders. She was found by her roommates. She was found dead, sitting on her bed, her back against the headboard, strangled with a dark stocking. She had been sexually assaulted with a broom handle. This obscenity was rendered even more disturbing by the fact that a Happy New Year's card was wedged between her feet. The same hallmarks of the killer were evident: a ransacked apartment, few valuables taken, and the victim strangled with her own underwear or scarves, which were tied into bows. So at this point, the city was panic-stricken, and the situation prompted the drafting in of a top investigator to head the hunt for the Strangler. Massachusetts Attorney General Edward Brooke, the highest-ranking law enforcement officer in the state, began work on January 17th of 1964 to bring the serial killer to book. There was pressure on Brooke, who was the only black attorney general in the county, to succeed where others had failed. So he had extra pressure on him.
Yes.
Extra pressure.
No pressure at all, dude.
Yeah. Brooke headed up a task force that included assigning permanent staff to the Boston Strangler case. He brought in Assistant General John Bottomley, who had a reputation for being unconventional. Bottomley's force had to sift through thousands of pages of material from different police forces. Police profiling was relatively new in the early 1960s, but they came up with what they thought was the most likely description of the killer. He was believed to be around 30, correct. Neat and orderly, correct.
Yep.
Worked with his hands,
Yep.
correct. And was most likely a loner or who may be divorced or separated. Not correct, but close enough. So, DeSalvo ended up being found by chance, not by the work of the police force.
Damn.
After a spell in prison for breaking and entering, DeSalvo went on to commit more serious crimes. He had actually broken into a woman's apartment, tied her up on the bed and held a knife to her throat before molesting her and running away. The victim gave the police a good description, one that matched his likeness sketch from previous crimes. Shortly afterward, DeSalvo was arrested. After he had been picked out of an identity parade, DeSalvo admitted to robbing hundreds of apartments and carrying out a couple of rapes.
A couple?
Yeah, just a couple. When his photo was published, many women identified DeSalvo as a man who had assaulted them in the quote-unquote Green Man attacks. Earlier that same day, DeSalvo had posed as a motorist with car trouble and attempted to enter a home in Bridgewater. The homeowner, Richard Sprouse, who would actually end up being the future police chief of Brockton, became suspicious of what was happening. He ultimately fired a shotgun at DeSalvo, who wouldn't leave, but then decided, I'm not going to get shot, and he ran.
Yeah.
While in Bridgewater, DeSalvo struck up a friendship with another inmate after he was arrested, an intelligent but highly dangerous killer named George Nassar. The two apparently had worked out a deal to split reward money that would go to anyone who supplied information to the identity of the Strangler. DeSalvo had already accepted that he would be in prison for the rest of his life for the rapes and the break-in enterings, and wanted his family to be financially secure. So they were like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's just admit to this and let's get the reward money, right?
Oh, Lord.
Under the arrest for his role in the Green Man rapes, DeSalvo was initially not suspected of being involved with the Strangler murders. He had actually confessed to fellow inmate George Nassar, who identified his attorney, F. Lee Bailey. And if you guys think that name is familiar, he has done like a lot of high-profile cases. Bailey subsequently took over DeSalvo's defense and was shocked to hear DeSalvo's description of the murders in incredible detail. There were some inconsistencies in his account. DeSalvo cited details of the Strangler case that nobody had known. They didn't make those details public.
Yeah.
Up to and including furniture and the placements of the furniture in the victims' apartments. However, police had not found any physical evidence to substantiate his confession. So here's why I say the Boston Strangler murders were still unsolved, because they could not pin it on him. Could not.
But they stopped, though, after
he confessed. They stopped, but they had no evidence for any of that. So,
even with the semen, they didn't test the semen, see if it matched?
Nothing.
What the fuck?
So, but again, he confessed, and this took place on 2 occasions. Once was under hypnosis induced by William Joseph Bryan, and once without hypnosis during interviews with Assistant Attorney General John Bottomley. For his 1967 trial, DeSalvo was evaluated by Harry Colos, a neurologist who had established the first sex offender treatment center in Massachusetts. Bailey arranged a plea bargain to lock in DeSalvo's guilt in exchange for excluding the death penalty as punishment. This was basically because he wanted to preserve the possibility of an eventual insanity verdict. Yeah. Because then he'd be locked into a mental institution rather than prison, and that's just what you're supposed to do as a defense attorney. DeSalvo had it all worked out.
Oh, Lord.
He believed he could convince the psychiatric board that he was insane and then remain in prison for the rest of his life.
What?
Bailey could then write up his story and make much-needed money to support his family. His book, quote, The Defense Never Rests, Bailey explains how it was that DeSalvo managed to avoid detection. He claims that DeSalvo was Dr. Jekyll and the police were looking for Mr. Hyde. After a second visit and listening to DeSalvo's describe in grisly detail the murder of 75-year-old Ida, Bailey was convinced his client was the Boston Strangler.
Yes.
When he asked DeSalvo why he chose a victim of such age, the man coolly replied attractiveness had nothing to do with it.
He's just a gross.
It was about who he could overpower. Yeah, it was all about who could overpower. It didn't matter if they were young, old, black, white, pretty, not pretty. That was not his driving force. So, after many hours of questioning and going into minute detail of what the victims wore or how their apartments looked, both Bailey and the police were convinced that they had the killer. One disturbing revelation was when DeSalvo described an aborted attack on a Danish girl. As he was strangling her, he caught sight of himself in the mirror. Horrified by the ghastly version of what he was doing, he released her and begged her not to tell the police before fleeing.
What?
However, without anything but the confession to go on, police never brought charges on him. In February of that year, he escaped with 2 fellow inmates from Bridgewater State Hospital, triggering a full-scale manhunt. A note was found on his bunk addressed to the superintendent. In it, DeSalvo stated he had escaped to focus attention on the conditions in the hospital and his own situation.
What?
3 days later, DeSalvo contacted his lawyer to turn himself in. His lawyers then sent the police to rearrest him in Lynn, Massachusetts. Following the escape, DeSalvo was then transferred to a maximum security prison known at the time as Walpole, where he later recanted his Strangler confessions. In 1965, while in police custody at Bridgewater State Hospital before his trial, DeSalvo confessed to being the Boston Strangler and committing all 13 murders.
Yes.
In 1967, the then 35-year-old DeSalvo was convicted of sexual assault, burglary, and robbery and sentenced to life in prison. Bailey was angered by the jury's decision to sentence DeSalvo to life imprisonment without parole for the rape cases. This is just for the rapes, not for the murders.
Yeah.
So, he said, quote unquote, "My goal was to see the Strangler wind up in a hospital where doctors could try to find what made him kill. Society is deprived of a study that might help deter other mass killers who lived among us, waiting for the trigger to go off inside them."
What?
Yeah, he wanted him studied. He didn't care about the safety of anybody else. He just wanted him studied.
You can study him in the prison.
That's what I said.
You can study him
Exactly. In November of 1975, DeSalvo got word to his doctor that he needed to see him urgently. DeSalvo had something important, quote unquote, to say about the Boston Strangler murders. The night before they were to meet, however, on November 25th of 1973, DeSalvo was found stabbed to death in the prison infirmary.
Well,
based on the level of security in prison, it is assumed that the stabbing had been planned with a degree of cooperation between the jail employees and the inmates.
Yes.
Robert Wilson, who was associated with the Winter Hill Gang, was tried for DeSalvo's murder, but the trial ended in a hung jury. Bailey later stated that DeSalvo was killed for selling amphetamines in the prison for less than the inmate enforced syndicate price.
No.
So, I mean, they're just saying whatever. He was killed because of, who he is and what he did. DeSalvo's papers are housed in the Lloyd Seeley Library Special Collections at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York City. These papers include his correspondence, mainly with the members of the Bailey family, which again was his lawyer, and gifts sent to the Baileys of jewelry and leatherwork crafted by DeSalvo while he was in prison.
You?
Yeah, right. I don't want to do that.
No.
Despite no physical evidence to definitively connect DeSalvo to the Boston Strangler murders, the murders stopped after his arrest, but the case was never closed.
He did it. It was him.
In 2001, DeSalvo's body was exhumed and DNA tests were taken and compared to the seminal fluids found on or near Sullivan. At the time, there was no match. However, on July 11th of 2013, Boston law enforcement officials announced that the DNA evidence has linked DeSalvo to the rape and murder of 19-year-old Mary Sullivan. A forensic analysis revealed a familiar match between the preserved DNA evidence and a nephew of DeSalvo. So his body was again exhumed for reevaluation, and this time the findings confirmed that the semen belonged to DeSalvo.
Because he did it.
Yeah. So though DeSalvo was conclusively linked to Sullivan's murder, doubts remain as to whether he committed all of the Strangler homicides and whether another killer could still be at large. When he confessed, people who knew DeSalvo personally did not believe that he was capable of the crimes, but they never do.
He had y'all fooled, bitches.
Yeah, they never I can see it. It's always, no, not him. It was also noted that the women allegedly killed by the Strangler were of widely varying ages, social status, and ethnicities, and that their deaths involved inconsistent modus operandi, which they didn't. They were all strangled.
Exactly.
All their apartments were ransacked. They all lived alone.
They all had the same shit.
The only difference were the stabbings, and again, that was explained by... You missed it. That was explained by the lady being a singer and having, strong throat muscles.
Yeah.
Susan Kelly, an author who has had access to the files of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Strangler Bureau, quote unquote, argues that the murders were the work of several serial killers rather than that of a single individual.
No.
It's possible, but not likely, in my opinion.
No.
Another author, former FBI profiler Robert Ressler, has said, quote, "You're putting together so many different patterns regarding the Strangler murders that it's inconceivable behaviorally that these could fit one individual."
What?
Yeah. Like Dahmer, Bundy.
No, it can fit one.
You know,
it
like
can fit one. Bitch,
BTK.
It can fit one.
Like, hello, anybody? In 2000, Elaine Whitfield Sharp, an attorney specializing in forensic cases from Marblehead, Massachusetts, began representing the families of DeSalvo and Sullivan. A former print journalist, Sharp obtained court approval to exhume both Sullivan and DeSalvo for DNA testing, filed several court actions to obtain information and physical evidence from the government, and worked with various film producers to create documentaries so as to better educate the public. Through these efforts, Sharp was able to identify several inconsistencies between DeSalvo's confessions and the crime scene evidence. For example, DeSalvo did not, as he claimed, strangle Sullivan with his bare hands and said she was strangled with a ligature. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, he could have just been like, "Oh, I used my
bare hands." He strangled her with his hands first, and when she was almost dead, he grabbed the ligature and finished the deal. That doesn't mean he's lying.
No, exactly.
Forensic pathologist Michael Baden noted that DeSalvo incorrectly stated the time of the victim's death, a detail that DeSalvo got wrong in several of the murders, said Kelly.
I mean,
who the fuck is going to remember it was 12:02?
Exactly.
Bitch,
like,
come the fuck on. That's like minuscule shit.
Exactly.
Finally, James Starrs, professor of forensic science at George Washington University, told a news conference that a semen-like substance on Sullivan's body did not match DeSalvo's DNA and he could not associate him with her murder. But again, that was before 2013 when they actually, proved it. So Sullivan's nephew, Casey Sherman, wrote a book, A Rose for Mary, published in 2003, in which he expanded upon the evidence and leads from Kelly's book to conclude that DeSalvo could not be responsible for her death and to try to determine her killer's identity.
But again, it is him. It is
this
him,
was written
damn
in
it.
2003. They didn't exhume and confirm until 2013, so 10 years later. So again, on July 11th of 2013, Suffolk County DA Daniel F. Conley stated the DNA testing had revealed a familial match between DeSalvo and the forensic evidence in Sullivan's killing, leading authorities to request, again, the exhumation of DeSalvo's body to perform definitive forensic links of DeSalvo to the murder. 9 days later, the investigators again announced that the comparison of the crime scene evidence and DNA from DeSalvo, quote-unquote, leaves no doubt that Albert DeSalvo was responsible for the brutal murder of Mary Sullivan.
He fucking did all of them.
Yep. So now we're going to talk a little bit about George Nassar, who was his inmate friend at the hospital.
Oh, the one that said they should split the prize money?
Now, he is among the suspects in the Strangler case. Yep. So, in 1967, he was given a life sentence for the shooting death of an Andover gas station attendant. In 2008 and in 2009, Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court denied his appeals for his 1967 conviction. In 2006, he argued in court filings that he had been unable to make his case in a previous appeal because he was in federal prison in Leavenworth, Kansas in the 80s, and therefore did not have access to the legal resources in Massachusetts. The court noted that Nassar had returned to Massachusetts in 1983, yet he did not plead his case for more than 2 decades. He also filed a motion for a new trial in Essex County, which was denied, as was his 2011 petition of the U.S. Supreme Court for a writ of certiorari.
What?
Yeah. So, go away. Okay. Amos Roby, a former prison psychiatrist who analyzed both DeSalvo and Nassar, has called Nassar a misogynistic, psychopathic killer and a far more likely suspect in the Strangler murders than DeSalvo. Several followers of the case have also declared Nassar to be the real Strangler, claiming that he fed details of the murders to DeSalvo, which is why in his confessions... What?
So he wasn't in jail during... Oh, wait, what? Wasn't Nassar in jail during...
He wasn't in jail during the murders.
Oh.
Yeah, but they're saying, like, he was arrested in 83 but didn't, like, try to appeal for 2 decades.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're also saying that they believe it's Nassar, and he was feeding information to DeSalvo. So when DeSalvo was, quote-unquote, confessing to the murders, he was jumbling up, like, the information. But, again, explain the DNA evidence. Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another motive was DeSalvo's tremendous need for notoriety, which is basically what his wife said. She said she didn't believe he did it. She believed he confessed for the media. Like, he just wanted the attention. Yeah. DeSalvo had hoped that the case would make him famous. Roby testified that, quote-unquote, Albert so badly wanted to be the Strangler. In a 1999 interview with the Boston Globe, Nassar denied involvement in the murders, saying that the speculation had destroyed his chances for parole. He said, I had nothing to do with it. I'm convicted under the table behind the scenes. Which means, like, he's saying, I didn't do it, but you guys are, like, you're convicting me for it behind the scenes. Like, I'm getting worse treatment. I'm not eligible for parole now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I truly don't know. I think DeSalvo is a very good candidate. He is proven to be the murderer in one case. And unless maybe, like, they were covering all of this, obviously, in news and media, he was a copycat. Possibly. I truly don't know. In 1979, the Texas legislature unanimously passed a resolution.
1971.
What did I say?
1979.
Oh. In 1971, the Texas legislature unanimously passed a resolution honoring DeSalvo for his work in quote-unquote population control.
What the fuck?
After the vote, Waco Representative Tom Moore Jr. admitted that he had submitted the legislation as an April Fool's joke against his colleagues. He declared intent was to prove that they passed legislation with no due diligence given to researching the issues beforehand. Having made his point, Moore withdrew the resolution. So,
the fact that they don't fucking apparently pay attention.
Representative Tom Moore just put in a bullshit legislative thing, knowing that they weren't going to read it. They weren't going to research it. They weren't going to look and see what it meant. They were just going to sign it and put it into law. That's what happened here.
That's some bullshit.
And then in 1973, DeSalvo died in prison. He was stabbed to death, remember?
Yes.
Because he was selling meth. For cheap meth.
Cheap meth. Can't sell a cheap meth.
Yep. So that is Albert DeSalvo / the Boston Strangler. And like I said, mine was long.
That's some bullshit.
Yep. It's a wild ride, that one.
So I don't have a murderer. I have a victim.
It's the second week in a row.
Yes. I have Dana, Ireland. January 2023, Albert Ian Schweitzer was exonerated of murder in Hawaii County, Hawaii, nearly 23 years after his wrongful conviction.
Jeez.
It was based on DNA testing and the discrediting of physical evidence, including bite mark testimony from the original trial.
And see this bite mark stuff. There's another case that goes on bite mark. It's wild. I watched a documentary on it.
Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1991. Police in Hawaii County, Hawaii, received a report about a badly damaged bicycle on a rural road. A few miles away, not long after, they found 23-year-old Dana Ireland severely injured, naked from the waist down on a fishing trail near the Wawa community. She was a recent college graduate from Virginia who was visiting her older sister and died on Christmas Day.
Oh, man. Wait, is this on our Christmas?
No.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, this wasn't the Christmas one.
Okay.
So, for the investigation, they collected the bicycle, found one of her shoes, her watch, and a clump of hair. And at the fishing trail, they collected more of her clothing, a child's sneaker and socks, beer bottles, cigarette butts, a pair of men's underwear,
What?
and a t-shirt soaked in what testing showed was Dana's blood.
What the fuck?
I think they're just grabbing whatever they found to see.
I mean, to test it, yeah, but that's like a lot of random weird shit.
Yes. They also collected the sheet from the ambulance ride and her remaining clothes.
Okay.
A reward fund was quickly established, but the case remained unsolved. And then spring of 1994, a local organization called Citizens for Justice asked the Hawaii Attorney General to appoint an independent prosecutor.
Okay.
May 23rd, 1994, 2 months later, John Gonsalves told the authorities that his half-brother, Frank Pauline Jr., had been present when Dana was attacked and had info about her death. Okay. And at that time, John was facing a lengthy prison term for cocaine conspiracy.
Oh, what is cocaine conspiracy? A conspiracy to sell?
I guess.
Oh, or manufacture.
Yeah. So, Frank was facing a 10-year prison sentence for sexual assault and theft.
Jesus.
And was interviewed by police in June 1994. He said he had been present when two brothers, 20-year-old Albert Ian Schweitzer, known as Ian, and 16-year-old Sean Schweitzer attacked Dana. He said he didn't take part in the rape, but he said he hit Dana on the head with a tire iron. But during the interview, he was unable to give a physical description of Dana or recall whether she was riding a bike.
Okay.
And over the next 2 years, they interviewed Frank at least 7 times. None of these were recorded, and his answers were often inconsistent. July 6, 1996, Frank said he had been lying all along and that Gonsalves had persuaded him to talk to police in the hope that his drug charges would be dismissed.
Okay.
They did not find any evidence connecting the brothers to the attack. They denied any involvement and said that their family and Frank's family had feuded for years. So, like...
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of what and what the fuck. They're doing this research.
That, What?
Yes. Part of the investigation, police collected dental impressions from the brothers. Forensic odontologist. Yes. After initially excluding Ian, later testified that his teeth, quote unquote, were consistent with what was said to be a bite mark found on Dana's breast. They confiscated Ian's yellow Volkswagen Beetle, which had been purple at the time of the crime. They compared paint scrapings from the car with paint found on the bicycle. They examined hairs found in the car. They found nothing to connect Ian to the crime. I told you this one's going to be like, what the fuck?
I'm doing many a confusion right now.
Yes, I was doing a lot of confusion. I was doing this fucking research. So I said, what the fuck? Yeah. July 30th, 1997, Frank Pauline was indicted for Dana Ireland's murder, rape, and kidnapping. 2 months later, on October 9th, 1997, Ian and Sean Schweitzer were indicted on the same charges. After the indictments, officials submitted several pieces of evidence for DNA testing.
Wait. They indicted Ian after they found no fucking evidence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Including rape kit swabs, a gurney sheet, the men's underwear, and the t-shirt made by a company called Jimmy's, which is popular with the surfers. October 7th, 1998, the testing company reported that sperm was found on the swabs and the gurney sheet, and that the Schweitzers and Pauline had been excluded. October 20th, 1998, the Hawaii County Prosecutor's Office dismissed the indictments against the Schweitzer brothers. Dismissal contained conditions that extended the statute of limitations for the rape and kidnapping charges to June 1st, 1999. There is no statute of limitations on murder. May 5th, 1999, a man named Michael Ortiz told prosecutors that Ian had confessed to being involved in Dana's death in August 1998 while Michael and Ian were in the Hawaii Community Correctional Center. So then May 20th, 1999, Ian and Sean were re-indicted on charges of murder, rape, and kidnapping. Frank went to trial in August 1999. Witnesses said he wore Jimmy's t-shirt like the one found near Dana's body.
Ew.
He testified... What?
Why would you wear that?
He wore one like...
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, why? Obviously, that would have to be like a piece of information people knew. The type of shirt.
Well, Jimmy's was a brand, so it's
well, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, was that just like a jab at like the prosecution? Like, haha, I'm wearing the same shirt because I'm the killer. Haha.
No, like witnesses were saying, "Oh, he wore shirts like that one, so it's him."
Oh, he's okay. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought you said he wore that shirt that day.
No.
Yeah, that's why I was like, why would he do that?
No. He testified and said that he had created a false story at the behest of his older brother. October 14th, 1999, the jury convicted Frank of second-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault, sentencing him to life in prison.
Okay. For her murder?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
All right. And then Ian's trial. So January 24th, 2000, Ian went to trial in Hawaii County Circuit Court. Prosecution's case was similar to the case against Frank's. No witnesses to the crime. Biological evidence collected at the crime scenes, and the hospital did not connect Ian to the attack.
Yeah, like, and nothing that they looked at of his indicated that it was him. Nothing matched. Nothing fucking matched.
It didn't match to nobody.
Nothing fucking matched. But did match to him.
It didn't match to anybody.
The paint chips
It didn't match to anybody.
did match.
To anybody.
Yeah, but did match.
No.
So why? Okay.
Yes.
Like, why is he even on trial?
Because they're all dumb. Witnesses testified that Ian owned a purple Volkswagen Beetle, that he had been seen with Frank that day, that the Beetle was seen damaged in the hours after Dana was attacked, and that the injuries to Dana and her bicycle had been caused when Ian rammed her and ran her over as she rode. Alex Franchi testified that he was drinking with Ian, Frank, and others near the ocean when Dana rode by on her bike. Later, Ian drove off in the same direction. And then...
That doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. And then Gonzalez testified that on December 24th, 1991, Frank got in the fight with his girlfriend and left. And then when he returned a few hours later with the Schweitzer brothers, there was damage to the front of the Beetle.
Okay.
It was not clear when Ian began driving the Beetle because it had changed hands several times in the fall and winter of 1991.
Mm-hmm.
The title wasn't transferred to him until January 29th, 1992. And it was painted yellow in March 1992, which prosecutors suggest was part of a cover-up.
Okay.
Dr. Charles Reinhold, who performed the autopsy on Dana, testified about injuries to Dana's chest. He said he found a bite mark on her left breast.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeffrey Wheeler, a biomechanics consultant, testified they examined her bike and concluded that a vehicle struck her from behind. The bike was pushed forward and she fell backwards against the front of the vehicle.
Okay.
He testified that he found no serious injuries from that collision. She had a broken pelvis, which he believed was a result of a more traumatic encounter that took place after she was knocked off the bicycle.
Oh, no. Oh, that sucks. Can you imagine what had to have happened to her to break her pelvis that wasn't from the collision?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
And then Kenneth Baker, the director of the Accident Investigation Division at Northwestern University's Traffic Institute, testified that the location of the damage to the bike was consistent with being hit by a Beetle based on the vehicle's height and the rounded shape of its bumper. Also testified that the presence of grease and oil on Dana's clothes led him to believe that she had been run over.
Okay.
Prior to the trial, James Bivin, Ian's attorney, had retained retired engineer James Campbell, who had concluded that the injuries suffered by Miss Ireland and the damage on the bicycle were possibly caused by a rear impact by a small pickup truck made between 1965 and 1975.
Why did you say it like that?
Because I did.
It's small pickup truck.
Because it was not the fucking Beetle.
Not the Beetle.
However, Bivin did not introduce that report to evidence.
Okay.
His fucking attorney did not put that into evidence.
Of course he didn't. Why would he? Because, nothing to help the case at all, right?
No. Hawaii County Police Detective Steve Guillermo testified that one of the crime scenes was left unsecured overnight, resulting in the loss of evidence, including tire marks on the side of the road. Also said that several persons told the police that they saw a pickup truck in the area at that time. He said that hair samples, paint samples, and grease samples had been taken from the Beetle, but none of them tied the vehicle to the crime.
So the only thing tying the Beetle to the crime...
Nothing is nothing.
Well, was the fact that whatever vehicle hit her was a lower lying vehicle. It wasn't a big vehicle. So if it was like a low model truck Their bumpers are lower, like a normal car.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing they've got
Mm-hmm.
is that it's a lower lying vehicle, possibly a Beetle, possibly just because of its height. And it could also be a truck, a different car. That's all they got.
They got nothing.
Okay.
And then Ortiz testified that Ian said that he just meant to scare Dana. But the Volkswagen slid in the gravel, hit the back of her tire. She flew off the bike. And he said he got scared, stopped. Frank got out. Frank grabbed her and started dragging her to the car by her hair.
Oh.
Yeah. He claimed that Ian told him that Frank dragged Dana into the Beetle, and during the struggle, she bit him on the arm. He said that Frank then ripped off her clothes and bit her on the breast. And under cross-examination, Ortiz testified that he didn't tell police about the conversation for nearly a year, by which time he was in prison in Minnesota. He admitted that his prison term had been reduced in part of his cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
And a prosecution investigator testified that he had performed several favors for Ortiz, including moving his brother back to Hawaii.
Huh.
Yeah. Ian did not testify, but several witnesses testified that there was bad blood between the Schweitzer and Pauline families, making it unlikely that the three of them would have been in the car together.
What is happening right now?
I don't know, because the whole time I'm freaking doing this, I said, what the fuck is this?
What is going on right now? I'm so confused.
I'm like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
And then Lisa Calandro, a scientist with Forensic Analytical in Hayward, California, had been jointly hired by the prosecution and the defense to analyze the DNA evidence to alleviate concern that the testing might consume all the evidence. She testified that the brothers and Frank were eliminated as contributors to biological evidence on the swabs and the sheet from the ambulance. She did not analyze the men's underwear or the Jimmy's t-shirt.
Why?
The underwear did not contain sufficient genetic material, she said, and the shirt was too bloodstained to get a reliable result of the DNA of the person who wore it.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess.
And then February 16th, 2000, the jury convicted Ian of all 3 counts.
What? How?
I don't fucking know.
Oh my God. Okay.
He was sentenced to life in prison for murder and received 2 20-year sentences for kidnapping and sexual assault to be served consecutively.
With no fucking evidence.
No fucking evidence. And then April 17th, 2000, his brother Sean pled guilty to manslaughter and kidnapping. He was sentenced to 1 year in jail. As part of his plea, he gave a statement to the police that he was in the back of the car when his brother ran over Dana. He said Frank sexually assaulted Dana while Ian stood by and Sean remained in the car. And then the Hawaii Supreme Court affirmed Ian's conviction on January 29th, 2004.
What the fuck?
Yep. By... I was doing a lot of what the fuck.
Yeah, I'm so fucking confused right now.
Exactly. By April 2015, the Hawaii Innocence Project, through attorney Brooke Hart, was representing Ian. And separately, a group known as Judges for Justice called for an official review of the case and said its own investigation indicted that Dana was assaulted and killed by a single attacker. April 27th, 2015, Frank Pauline was killed in prison in New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Didn't say why.
He was selling meth for cheaper than...
Apparently. Probably. January 16th, 2018, Ian filed a motion for a new trial.
Okay.
The motion said that the Jimmy's t-shirt had been submitted for DNA testing, and DNA had been extracted from the sweat and the blood on the shirt. Frank and the brothers were eliminated.
Look at that! They didn't test it because they would not be able to get any evidence out of it from what that bitch said. And now they're like, hold on, let's test it. And it's not any of the fucking people they convicted.
Nope.
Bitch.
The profile was consistent with the DNA obtained from the swab and the gurney sheet. In addition, DNA testing had been performed on other items that had not been tested before the trial, and the 3 men were excluded.
Bitch.
May 23rd, 2019, the Hawaii Innocence Project and the Hawaii County Prosecuting Attorney's Office agreed to work together to investigate the case.
They fucking need to. Those men need to be released.
Oh, it's just one that was... Because his brother only got a year.
Oh, okay. Well, Ian needs to be fucking released.
Yeah, he did in 2023.
Fuck yeah!
That's what I read at the beginning.
Oh. Where was I?
clearly not listening, apparently.
I am. Like, that's just like, whew, over my head.
So, January 23rd,
Oh.
2023, the Hawaii Innocence Project filed a motion to vacate Ian's conviction.
Good.
Citing the DNA exclusions, the motion argued that the crime was committed by a single person. Also noted over the years, bite mark evidence had been discredited. Dr. Adam Freeman, a past president of the American Society of Forensic Odontology.
Odontology?
Yes.
Okay.
Said in an affidavit that, quote unquote, the injury Dr. Reinhold testified was a bite mark is not actually a bite mark. Separately, the motion said that Marvin Smith, a tire tread expert, and Ron Smith and Associates had examined tire tread evidence from the crime scene that had not been presented at the trial.
So it was a tire tread on her boob?
No. Well, like, they had, like, tire tread stuff from
evidence.
The crime evidence, but they didn't present that at the trial.
What was the...
They didn't say what was on the boob.
Oh.
But it
wasn't a bite mark.
It was not a bite mark.
Then how did they match it to someone's... They
didn't match it. It was...
Oh. Inconclusive?
It was somewhat match.
No, it wasn't, because it wasn't fucking teeth.
Yeah.
The fuck? What is... Where's this?
Hawaii.
I need y'all to get it the fuck together. What in the actual fuck is happening?
He said that the tread width and the distance between the tires did not match a Volkswagen Beetle and were more consistent with a truck or a van.
Witnesses saw. Okay.
So if they had fucking examined the fucking tire treads.
Or, I don't know, the bloody shirt or the men's underwear or
all
any of the million of other things that were listed that they didn't even fucking test for a goddamn murder investigation. Bruh.
The motion to vacate was accompanied by a joint stipulation of facts saying that Sean had recanted his confession and said he had pled guilty because of his brother's lengthy prison sentence. He denied any involvement in Dana's death and was deemed truthful when he denied involvement during a polygraph test. January 24, 2023, Judge Peter Kubata vacated Ian's conviction and
Kubata
and dismissed his charges on motion from prosecutors.
Okay.
October 23rd, 2023, he granted Sean's motion to vacate his conviction and dismissed his case.
Okay.
2024, the Hawaii Innocence Project hired an expert who used genetic genealogy DNA to compare evidence from Dana's rape kit, clothes, and the ambulance gurney.
Okay.
All the evidence led to Albert DeSalvo Jr., who lived near the crime scene.
And drove a truck.
Bitch. The 57-year-old was questioned last July, forced to turn over more DNA, then released. He killed himself days later.
Of course he did. Big fucking surprise there.
Hawaii Innocence Project attorney William Harrison said HIP warned the police department not to release Lauro, quote unquote. We told them that he would either run...
He would be a flight risk.
...or commit suicide. And, you know,
Look
our words came true. Harrison said, noting that was one more issue with the handling of the case. The brothers also have a civil case...
Good.
Moving through state court to get compensation for the wrongful convictions, $50,000 for every year served.
This reminds me so much of the West Memphis 3 murders, because this was like the same situation. They were coerced into confessing. There's no fucking evidence.
Ian didn't even confess. None of them fucking confessed.
Well, they did though.
Well, Sean
recounted.
Sean didn't confess until Ian's conviction, but Ian never fucking confessed.
But that's what I'm saying. This sounds so much like that. Because it's like the same situation. They were coerced. No fucking evidence. They just needed somebody to pin it on. The evidence that they did have, they didn't test. We're going to go over West Memphis 3 in very, very extreme detail because there's like new information coming out. Like even now, DNA evidence that's finally being tested. They've been trying for years and years and years. the boys, the 3 boys who were convicted, have been trying for fucking years to get this DNA evidence tested, and judge after judge after judge after judge after judge has denied it until this year. They're testing it this year. I don't know. I haven't looked because I don't want to surprise myself yet, but I don't know if they've tested it and what the results were. I have a theory on who the actual murderer was. You'll probably come to the same conclusion when we cover it, but that's so fucking shockingly similar to that case.
Because none of it fucking linked any of them.
No.
All of them don't fucking get along. The families don't get along,
Right.
so they wouldn't fucking
Why would
be
they have been
together. Like, no.
No, well, like, these 3 boys, like, they were friends, you know, but it was the point of the police had to blame somebody, and they were as good as anybody else.
And then,
But they were blamed because they were part of the Gothic revival. We're all black, listen to heavy metal, rock music, you know, eyeliner, the whole goth scene, the emo scene. That's the only reason. The only fucking reason. The only reason these boys were identified and convicted. They had no connection whatsoever to any It's gonna have to be a big story because there's so much.
so I'm glad that they're trying to get fucking compensation because they were fucking in jail for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Because no one could do their shit.
So that was our stories for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Fucking crazy. Both stories were wild. Wild rides for both.
I told you.
There were a whole lot more what the fucks for Courtney's story because none of that made sense. Like,
No.
everything made sense in my story.
Yes, not mine.
Except his wife not questioning his jail stints and being super surprised
I
that
don't
he
believe that.
did shit.
She knew shit.
I don't know. Anyway, you guys
She was in denial.
You guys can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/haunted and homicidal.
We have free shit.
We do. You guys can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/haunted and homicidal. We posted some little pictures from the Gothic market on the stuff that we got the other day. Cute stuff. Mine's all on my shelf and nice and neat and ready to go.
To organize my stuff.
And then you can email us like your own stories, suggestions, any comments or whatever you feel like telling us at hauntedandhomicidal@gmail.com. So again, thank you guys for your love and support. We appreciate you. And stay tuned for next time. Okay, bye.
Bye.